My name is Bella Rose, and I'm addicted to MMOs. If you don't know what MMOs are massively multiplayer online games, such as World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, Destiny 2, Once Human, Star Wars: The Old Republic, and what I currently am addicted to, Final Fantasy 14. And there's so many more out there as well, but those are just a few to name some popular ones that might ring a bell to you. I specifically love raiding in these games, which is like the end game, where you kind of work on best in slot. You get to hang out maybe with a static, or maybe you don't have a static. But I'm here to kind of shed some light on what it takes to raid in Final Fantasy 14 and also explain exactly what it is. I have kind of built my streaming career around raiding in Final Fantasy 14. It's kind of where it all started, but I do get a lot of questions about it. So I wanted to share with you exactly what it is that I do when I raid in Final Fantasy 14. So come along for a little trip through Eorzea with me and let me shed some light on that for you. Welcome to Final Fantasy 14. This is my character that I play. Her name is also Bad Wolf Rose. And I am a co-leader currently of a static that raids in Final Fantasy 14. You may be asking exactly what a static is. And a static is a set group of people that raid together at the same time each week. And we know that these people will show up at the exact time and be there the days that we pick. And we've had to organize this group as far as roles or jobs to be very specific for the tier and for what we need and how we have to play. It's not always easy organizing the kittens, but we do it each week and we love hanging out together. So let me show you what a static for a raid tier in Final Fantasy has to consist of. Okay, so a raid group in Final Fantasy 14 consists of 8 members. You're going to need 2 meat shields, 2 people that are going to keep everybody vertical, and then you need 4 people that are going to do stabbies or shoot cool things and do DPS. So let me show you what that can kind of look like. As I was saying, you need 2 tanks for your group, one to be your main tank and another to be your off tank. This is a gunbreaker. And then this right here is another example of a tank. It's a Dark Knight, which is what I play. I typically play off tank, but this job can play main tank as well. From here, you're going to want to have 2 different healers, one pure and one shield. This is a sage that is a pure healer. And then this right here is a astrologian that is a shield healer. It's important to have one of each in order to keep your group balanced so the heals are good and so is the mitigation for your group as you do these fights. From there, you want to work on your DPS. We typically have 2 melee. This is a Reaper as an example of melee. Melee jobs are close range, just like this ninja here as well. And they stay closer to the boss, and they don't really have any attacks that can hit the boss from further away, like this dancer. This dancer helps buff the party and is called physical range. So they do damage from further away from the boss than melee. Also like this caster. Caster does magical DPS though and can sometimes help res. And yeah, that's your team. It's really important to build out your team like I just explained, with 2 tanks, 2 healers, 2 melee, 1 physical range DPS, and 1 magical DPS. This allows you to fight the boss properly, mitigate things, heal properly, as well as build up your limit break, which is a powerful attack that can be used by any of your party members, but it's different depending on their role. So the different roles, like I kind of explained, are tanks, healers, and the different types of DPS. And then there are a bunch of jobs within those. I shared a few of each, but there are many more that people can play as well. And yeah, let's get into what happens once you kind of pick your role and you build out your team and what you got to do from there. So, as a tank, I typically only play Dark Knight right now. So, I have kind of honed in my skills. I've learned my rotation, which I'm going to kind of show you what that looks like. And I I usually am a very flexible person when it comes to playing different jobs in this game, but I have stayed a tank because I've really enjoyed it. So anytime I have to switch, I have to relearn a different opener and rotation. And so your opener and your rotation that you do is the order of your attacks while you're doing this fight to optimize your DPS. And it kind of sounds like a lot to learn, and it kind of is, but it's a lot of fun to be able to figure out how you can optimize what you play and how exactly you can maximize the DPS in your mitigation while you're doing these fights. This is what my opener looks like as a Dark Knight currently. You can see that I have 3 rows of hotbars down at the bottom of my screen, and I utilize mostly the top two. My bottom bar, I keep things that I don't want to press, or I keep things for AoEs that I don't use in these savage fights. And so this takes me probably about 2 minutes to go through fully at the beginning of the fight. And then you start rotating through these skills to optimize your DPS so that you can do your max DPS and help kill the boss faster. It's really important to learn your opener and rotation, kind of like what I just showed you there on a striking dummy. Most people will practice what they find online. So there's a lot of websites, and there's also a Discord called The Balance, where there are some really phenomenal people that love to crunch the numbers and tell you what kind of food you should eat before the fight, what kind of pots you should use during the fight, as well as order to press your buttons in to a certain degree. And so if you can find those websites or find that Discord, there is a lot of resources out there to help you figure that out so you can optimize your character as well as maximize your DPS for your group. Um, Once we learn what kind of roles we're going to be playing and then the jobs we're going to play, and then work on our rotation, it's time to do the fight. So once the tier has released, we typically wait a week or two to jump into the savage fights. There are normal, which everybody typically does. You progress the story, and it typically puts you through normal if you want to continue to complete certain things. And then they release a savage tier a week later. Savage tier is considered in game as well as ultimates. We don't do ultimates right now. Ultimates take a little longer to complete. Savage content, although it is still considered in game, is a little faster to complete. And so that's where we are at right now. We have a retier coming out, I guess, at the end of next month, which we're super excited about. But what I'm sharing here with you is the first fight from this last tier that we did. And typically, when we start jumping into a fight for the first time, we check out videos that have been released from people that are week one. Um, we are more of a mid core group, so we don't try to clear week one. We just try to clear in a timely manner. And it's really nice to have these tools of videos on how to do mechanics and different ways to complete the mechanics in the fight. So we study up on the videos as well as read up on websites that have details on how to go through the mechanics and how to organize your party for each mechanics in beforehand. And once it's time to actually jump into the fight, we prog. So each week we spend 2 to 3 nights together, all 8 of us. And for about 2.5 hours, we practice the fight and we try to prog or progress through the fight, mechanic by mechanic, which is why we try to study up the best we can because we get very limited time together as adults, playing this game and wanting to rate like we do. So once we get together, we just spend that time trying to figure out the mechanics, and we do talk about them and then jump back in. So each time we jump into the fight, we progress as far as we can in that fight. And once we have wiped the entire party, we start that fight over. And the hopes each time is that we learn something along the way up to that point. And then hopefully we can get further and further each night, progressing through the timeline of the fight.
Dave, just have a
Uh,
shoulder tackle ready. Get ready to move left after this first hit. left and right, left and right.
Oops. My other co-leader is super important in our group because he is our shot caller. He calls all the mechanics as we're going through the fight, and it's super important. And that's what you just heard in that clip. And you're about to watch us clear. Oh my god, come on. Point 3.1, we got it. Nice. Nice.
Oh,
Congrats, guys.
yeah.
Yay! We did the thing, we did the thing, we did the thing. Well, that wraps up my basic explanation about raiding and savage content in Final Fantasy XIV. And I really hope you enjoy taking a little bit of a deeper dive into one of my passions. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a good one.